What's up, everybody? It's Chad. I'm back again with another episode of #Grassy Logic. We're back at the Monster House location. I know we had a couple of remote guests for a few weeks, but we are back again. We're ready to rock, ready to roll. I'm actually glad we're back. You know, my little Edgar Allan Poe corner. I really like doing these in person. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Melodie. So thank you so much for joining me. We're going to get into the episode here in a little bit. I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second. Usually I have my guests do that, but I kind of feel it's a little redundant because I start asking you questions about yourself. Yes. So anyway, we're going to get into the episode, but first, before we do, I got to thank my sole and only sponsor right now at the moment. Unfortunately, Cinder Cannabis is going to be leaving New Mexico. So thank you guys so much for your contribution throughout the year. It's been great. Thank you guys for being in New Mexico. Unfortunately, didn't work out for them. So thank you guys so much. But Monster House is still supporting #Grassy Logic. Thank you guys so much. And without further ado, let's get on with the episode. So Melodie, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And you're from New Era, right?
Yes, I am the retail operations manager for New Era Dispensary. We're a brand new dispensary located off Foothills. So we're right there by Calichi's. We're right by Cholitos, kind of tucked away in the Foothills area. We opened up about 3 months ago, and so we've been, really enjoying, being in the New Mexico community, getting this new brand going, getting to know all the awesome people in the area. And yeah, just really excited to see where things go.
Nice. So where are you from originally?
So I am born in Hawaii originally.
Shoes.
And then from there I moved to Colorado, where I spent a lot of my life growing up. And so that's kind of where I got into the cannabis industry. Colorado's one of the first. And so just been a big cannabis advocate, cannabis user for a long time, originally from Colorado.
Nice. So how long have you been in the cannabis industry itself then? I mean, so Colorado's one of the first states, probably a while.
Yes. So I originally got into the cannabis industry and got my first badge, which is what you need to work in the industry in Colorado, in 2013. And so I started off originally as a bud tender. I worked for some big corporations. I worked for some small stores. I worked for Starbuds, Sweet Leaf, just to name a few. And so really great experiences there in Denver. And then from there, I moved to Colorado Springs, where I started doing wholesale for a concentrate company. And then so from there, I became director of operations, director of sales, for a BHO extraction lab. So it was, the original days of wax and shatter.
Yeah.
And then from there, I moved to,
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, I met my husband in Colorado Springs, and he had his grow and extraction lab as well. And we met, and I joined onto his team. And then from there, we went on to open a few more different businesses. We had a 40-acre hemp grow, which we extracted into CBD products. We had a CBD store.
So this is a little later down the road too, because 2018 is just ringing in my head right now from 2013. So that's a pretty you had a lot of knowledge by that time.
Right. So 2013, I was kind of just getting in to the industry. I kind of worked my way up, bud tender to, assistant manager, and then to Colorado Springs, director of sales, director of operations, really launching these brands, helping them reach new levels. And then from there, I met, my husband. I joined on to his brand. So we took that to new levels too. And then from there, we started going into the CBD industry. And so we started growing hemp. And extracting it, turning it into concentrates. And so that's when we started our brand, Cured by Design. And so that was a really awesome brand. We had a store, and that was in 2019. And then in 2020, COVID happened. And so unfortunately, we had to close our store at that time. But it was a good thing, honestly. It was a nice break for us from just business, the hustle bustle of life. And then kind of once COVID was going on, I decided to start another business, which was Chronic Kisses, which is a CBD infused cosmetics line.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, I made chapsticks, lip gloss, butters, all vegan, all handmade. And so I entered my products into, some different cannabis competitions, and So in 2022, we won first place for best CBD product on
Congratulations.
Cup in Colorado,
Oh, cool.
which I don't know if, are you familiar with?
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
My dad's from Colorado. I
hey,
spent a lot of time there, between here and New Mexico my whole life.
mhm,
My brother still lives in Colorado. He's in Durango. He makes hard cider.
yes.
So he's out there, doing his cider thing. So, yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Yep. So it's awesome in Colorado. And so, we did that. And so after that, we kind of wanted to get back into cannabis. And
yeah,
so when we saw that we had the legalization here in New Mexico, I have some family here. Me and my husband, decided to look into what it was going to take to get into the industry out here. And so
yeah.
that's kind of what made us do our move out here. We launched our brand before, ran that for a while, and then most recently I joined up with Heather and Sona, which you met the other day,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and then we launched New Era here.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Like some of the questions I had, you just answered them. I was like, thank you.
Yes.
Because I was going to ask, like what brought you to New Mexico? But that makes sense. You're so in tune with the cannabis industry that you would know, because like I know when other states are going legal,
Yes.
because I pay attention a lot, it's part of my job too.
Right.
But you pay attention just naturally too. And the people that do, you usually know something like that. I had a couple on a couple of weeks ago from Jal, and she went in such detail. She figured out how many vehicles goes through their little village, every year. There's
Yes,
only like
you
2,000
have
people
to
there.
you have to look at those numbers. You
Yeah.
have to see the pass-throughs to know the viability of a
Mhm.
location.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things you need to look at before you even commit to a location, for sure.
Yeah.
You want to know the traffic that's going through there, because you know that you're going to be able to capture at least a certain percentage of that traffic.
Yeah.
And so, low traffic area, probably not a good location.
Yeah. Exactly.
High traffic area, probably a much better location.
Yeah, exactly. And some people are kind of figuring that out here in Las Cruces too.
Yes.
I think some people just kind of plopped it somewhere and said, I'm going to be a dispensary, and no matter what, I'm going to make money. But it doesn't really work like that. Like you
No.
have to have the location and everything else to go with it too.
Yes.
Because the customer dictates, stuff in this industry here.
Mhm.
Not the other way around. So
Definitely.
it's good that other people understand that too. And
Yes.
I think some people are figuring that out now. Some the hard way. Some
Yes.
kind of figured that out before. And others are learning that.
Yes,
And
definitely.
it's
It's a
showing.
big learning curve,
Yeah.
honestly. That's one thing I've noticed. We got here, when it first went recreational. So I know it happened of April. We were here, owning our property by May,
Oh wow.
and, getting licensed right away and
Mhm.
getting open by, um, we got licensed by November and opened up by the following April.
Yeah.
And so it took us a little time to get built up and everything, with my original brand. But one thing I noticed is that it was a big learning curve. It felt like kind of stepping into a time machine. It's the very beginning stages. When I always would mention the word compliance, people wouldn't even know what that word meant. And so I was like, and so coming from Colorado, it is a much stricter industry.
Yeah.
Compliance is a huge thing. It's not the CCD, it's called the MED, the
Yeah.
Marijuana Enforcement Division, and they are breathing down all decks. And so some of the craziness I've seen out here in New Mexico, that kind of stuff doesn't really happen in Colorado, just because it is very, very strictly regulated. And now you see New Mexico moving in that direction, which is a really good thing to see. You know
Yes.
what I mean? But it was definitely like a blast from the past when I came out here originally, just
Yeah.
seeing things so in the early phases. And so it's just been amazing to see how far this industry has come in just these short few years. So much has
Yeah.
evolved, so much in branding, in packaging, in quality of product, quality of grow, quality of extraction, just everything. You know what I mean? I'm really amazed at the lengths that New Mexicans have been willing to go to make their brands just so amazing, and just for the cannabis culture.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about at
Mhm.
the end of the day.
Yes, 100%. It's all about culture. I
All
try to
about
tell people.
plant medicine,
Mhm.
all about something that brings us all together, something stigmatized for so long, you know what I mean, for all the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
Now we're able to have access to it, and easy access to it. And now you see things like the alcohol market in danger,
Mhm.
because people would rather smoke cannabis than drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And in the past, people would rather drink alcohol because you can go to any liquor store or gas station or Walmart and you can buy a bottle or a 12 pack
You can go to
anytime,
the movie theater now.
anywhere you want
Yeah,
at a restaurant, you know.
we're
And
submerged
for
in it.
during
Yeah,
COVID, you could get it DoorDash to you,
yeah,
you know. But cannabis has always been so inaccessible. With legalization, it's more accessible, and I'm just really happy to see more people using cannabis. I truly believe it is the healing of a nation, like Bob Marley said. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Truly, it
yeah,
is. And we're seeing it live in action. Like we're
yes,
seeing it every day. And so I'm just honored to be a part of the movement. I'm really, grateful to be here in the New Mexico scene. We're just so excited to be launching New Era. We have really big plans with New Era for community. We really want to give back. We really want to do educational seminars. One thing that's really stood out to us is the crisis with the animals out here.
okay, yeah,
That is a big thing that's standing out to us, and that we feel, so compelled that we want to do something.
yeah,
And so, one of the things that we've been doing is we have been communicating with a lot of the local rescues
hmm,
and starting to formulate some plans. And so, I can't go too much into detail yet, but we are working on creating a new foster network to kind of help, boost the animal adoptions, getting these dogs into good homes,
hmm,
dog being just euthanized at an extremely high rate at the Mesilla Valley Animal Shelter. And so
yeah,
we want to assist them and help in any way that we can, because we know it can't be easy on them
yeah,
either to do things like to work in that field.
yeah,
It's not easy, and it is a huge sacrifice. And so we want to, help in that way. We're all about women's empowerment. It is a women-owned brand and a minority-owned brand. And so we are just all about women's empowerment. We're just all about pushing the educational aspect of cannabis. We want to get consumers very knowledgeable. At New Era, our main mission in the dispensary is to create a supportive environment where customers can come in and feel so welcome. We never make a customer feel rushed. We let customers take time, ask questions. We like to hear what they need and make recommendations based on that. And
yeah,
so it's just a big focus for us to just really create a positive experience for people, to really spread the knowledge, the awareness, and just, we're just really passionate about what we do. And so we're just really excited to be here in the New Mexico industry. And
yeah.
yeah.
Well, welcome. I was going to ask some more questions about New Era, but before we do, I was going to ask you. So, Colorado Springs just recently, like within a day, approved recreational sales. Did
Yes.
they allow manufacturing and everything? Like before that, just no sales? Was there manufacturing allowed, or
So in Colorado Springs, which is where we were operating, it was medical only. And
okay,
it's been medical only until just
like
this
24
groundbreaking
hours?
groundbreaking thing, because I never thought I would see the day that Colorado Springs would go recreational. I really didn't. And it was due to many factors. You know what I mean? It was a lot of politics and just conservatism, with the military base, and just a lot of factors that, even though, the people wanted it, the people of the city wanted it, they could really benefit from the tax revenue. There was so much
Bring it in.
pushback. 10 years into, the recreational industry, they are finally doing it. And so
Thank
I'm
God.
so happy to see that. I feel like this is going to be just groundbreaking for some of the medical people that have already been there and established, and going to give more opportunity for new and up and coming businesses to have a shot to get into that adult use market in Colorado Springs as well.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Because my dad's family is just 45 minutes south in Canyon City.
Yes.
So we'd have to go to Pueblo, because that county doesn't sell it either over in Canyon City. So I think it might be the same county. I don't know. I don't know how the counties split up really in Colorado. I just know the cities. But yeah, we'd have to go to Pueblo. And so I was always like, what the heck, and then I found out, oh, okay, they have a thing where the cities can opt in or opt out. I'm like, that kind of sucks. And that's what I noticed. I was like, well, maybe we shouldn't do that here in New Mexico. We're too rural,
Yes.
to allow something like that, because there
Definitely.
would have been too many places not doing it. And then there would have been like, whoa, what's happening? Why isn't
Yes.
there money being made?
And
then,
a lot of people are upset about the oversaturation, you know what I mean? But one thing that we need to remember that makes New Mexico different and really set this place apart is New Mexico didn't make it this impossible task for somebody to be able to have a cannabis business.
Yeah.
In places like Colorado and California, you need to have a lot of investment. You pretty much have to, be an established brand already to even think about going into that, or just it's just very hard. It's not easy to get into those markets out there, and it gets harder and harder as the brands get more and more established. The thing it did is it made the licensing fees low. It made it open to everywhere, not opting in, opting out, and it gave everybody a true opportunity to have a slice of this business, to make their dreams come true. It wasn't something that was only the top 1%, only the elite can do. It was something that everybody can have a fair shot at. And that is what I so admired about the New Mexico cannabis industry, because I was like, they did it right. Now it is oversaturated. Yes, it's hard, but that business, you know what I mean? If they did close the license, and they've done this in Colorado too, where they've closed down licenses, it's called a moratorium. And they close it temporarily, and then, for a few years. And then, over time, they end up opening them back up, and so what they're going to do out here, I noticed, the CCD director is from, so I feel like they're going to adapt a lot of the Colorado methods and styles.
Which I wish we wouldn't, because it's different here. And I keep telling people
it is very different here. It is such a different demographic. And so, who knows what's going to happen.
Luckily, by law, they can't stop licensing. It would have to be a law change, thank God. But yeah, I have noticed that they're trying to take measures to kind of.
I've heard talks about it. Is anything in legislation yet pending? I don't think so. Not yet, right?
So last year we had a lot of conversations about it, and I talked to some legislators, and I even talked to the CCD about it. And he even asked me, Todd, he was like, "You're not for closing licenses, right?" I was like, "No, why would I?" And so, we went on a different conversation, but he had asked me, but I'm still not for closing licenses. It's just not fair, because like I keep telling people, they're the New Mexicans who are saving up money
to have
right now while we're speaking to have a chance. And if you cut the licenses off, because here in New Mexico, we already had closed licenses. We had the same, a worse, stricter model when we were medical. It was over 80 to 100 grand just for the licensing. Then you had to do everything else on top of it. And then at the very beginning, you had 99 plants. Then they went to 450. Then they went to like 1750 at the, before we went rec. So you had like minimal things to work with. It was ridiculous. And it's just going to go back to that. And then you have the people who bought up the licenses who were waiting for that day. I know the CCD has told me, well, we're going to take measures, this and that. And I was like, they found a way when we were medical, we had no licenses open. They're going to find a way either way. This way keeps them more honest, because everyone tells you who they are. But when we were medical and people were being bought out in secret ways, you had no clue. You had some dude named Long Dong that everyone kept telling me owned 5 dispensaries. I don't know if you even heard that.
But certain mega operators that are just buying up, locations everywhere, things of that nature. We don't want that for the cannabis industry. You know what I mean? And so I agree with you. Closing licenses does put a big risk of just taking it away from the people fully and putting it into the hands of, kind of monopolized in a way.
Yeah, it does. It straight up monopolizes. And that's what we had here. We had a monopoly. I even made a meme about it yesterday. It was kind of hilarious. Have you seen The Dictator?
No.
Okay, it's a movie back in the day with Sacha Baron Cohen, that crazy guy. Well, there's a part where he's running on a track and the country has a race, like a Olympics or whatever. Well, he shoots all the guys that are in competition, and he's shooting all of them. So I took a picture of the still of that, and I put operators who want licenses closed, and it's the Dictator guy, and I said Monopoly, and I said competition. One of the guys that got shot, another one is Fair Market, one of the other guys that got shot. And there was a guy in the back just standing there with his hands on his hip, and I said, me watching the shit show.
Yes, I did. I saw that meme, and that was hilarious. And that's very accurate.
You know
what I mean? It's a tough market to be in, and it just shows markers to make your brand succeed. But yeah, it is operating in a tough place. I noticed a lot of places are shutting down.
It's the market,
and
unfortunately.
so it just goes to show that only the strong can survive. And like you said, it is all about winning community over. It is all about proving ourselves to the consumer, giving back, showing that, we are about community. And so that's just always been a big focus for me, just in business in general.
Open, fair, free
You just
market.
have to be, generous,
Yeah.
and I feel like that what you put out into the world is always what comes back in. And so if you're always putting out good positivity, generosity, just all of that stuff always comes full circle. And so definitely.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, the industry's ever changing in New Mexico. I feel like we're on like a sped up timeline versus the other
Mhm.
states. And I think it's because there's so many people that have experience. We even have some experience from the medical side.
Right.
So certain lessons that we learn from that side. Okay, we have this, and I feel like we're just kind of trucking really quickly.
Right.
But we're still on the same track of about a 5 year time span where you start to get stable.
Mhm.
Especially if we keep the licensing open. And I
Yes.
told you guys again, licensing isn't a guarantee people survive. It's actually meant for you to get out of the industry so the numbers get to some made up number that they make
A
up.
more manageable number for
Yeah,
the
yeah, some
CCD.
arbitrary manageable number that they make up
Mhm.
and pay somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars to come up with.
Yes.
So it's just a better way to look at it, and everything.
Right.
So, but I kind of wanted to talk about that with you a little bit because you came from a different market, and I was like,
Yes.
you have so many great insights on that market and this
Yes.
market and the differences. Like I wanted to hear about it because it is important, for
Yes.
people like you with your experiences. And one thing I did notice is that people that come from a saturated market do better in a saturated market,
Mhm.
or a competitive market is what I like to call it. If you come from a monopolized market, it's a little harder for you.
Yes.
Some don't want to change. They think what worked there is going to work here.
Right.
And, they have the entitlement of you have to come to me because I'm the only one around. But
Yes.
that doesn't exist here. And we shouldn't go
Yes.
back to that either.
No.
The fear of, that everyone's throwing out. Then you have all these legacy producers. And I don't know why we're so afraid to let go of a legacy here or there or
Yeah.
whatever. And it happens. It's unfortunate.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not shutting down pizza places because, Papa John's can't make it or a local pizza place can't make it.
Exactly.
You allow as many pizza places as you want.
Exactly.
And the strongest survive, and
Yes.
you have your corporate guys, you got your local guys,
Mhm.
you got your Mesilla Valley pizza, you got your Roadrunner pizza, you got your Domino's, you got your selection. And
Yes.
they all work it somehow and make it work.
Definitely.
So in, New Era, I see you guys kind of doing the same thing.
Yes.
You're kind of, your ears are to the industry and you guys are like taking the punches as it goes because New Mexicans don't like outsiders.
Mhm.
But I've said this before, if you from us, we'll keep you around,
Yeah.
like it's like
Definitely.
this guy can take it all right,
Definitely.
like
And so that's kind of something that really helped me, with my last brand. It's something that we figured out quick because, like I said, New Era is, I've, joined up with New Era in this past year, and we've been, doing really great things, really, really awesome things to make community engagement. But where I learned about the community engagement and the importance of that here in New Mexico was when I had my dispensary, which a lot of people may be familiar with, Premier High Life.
Oh yeah.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I owned Premier High Life. That was my dispensary motel. And so we bought this motel, on a pretty sketchy part of town. And it was, it was very scary, but we were like, we're going to come here and join into this market, something that we love. And so really quickly we learned that in Las Cruces, everybody that lives here is from here, families from here, everybody knows each other. Everyone has a lot of history with each other.
Yeah.
And word gets around town fast. You know what I mean? Everyone knows each other. And so we realized like, hey, like this is a very tight-knit community. You know what I mean? And so we got involved, and so we knew that we were going to do the dispensary, but we wanted to get involved in other ways. And so like one of the first things we did was a social equity project, where we joined up with a housing program called ERAP, and basically it was the government funding for people to have, a place to stay after they've, gone through, things in their life affected from COVID, affected from multiple reasons. And so that was the first, this community and really got to know the people of this community. And so we were able to open up our dispensary in the lobby, and we just knew that like events and community give back was the thing. And so we were always hosting events at the motel. We teamed up with Drew, DJ Rob E, Cinna, Alter Ego events. We did a whole bunch of events. We did like smoke and work. We did like slam poetry. We brought Kurt Bangs out and, sponsored the show at Rads. We brought Gorilla Zoe out, sponsored the show at Rads. We brought DJ Paul from 3-6 Mafia. We gave away lots of free tickets. Like, we really wanted to bring fun events here to Las Cruces for people to do.
Yeah.
And one of the last events we did was we brought Man, which he did the song with 50 Cent.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that as a free event for Las Cruces because we want to just like totally give back. And so that's kind of how I've made my name here a bit in the cannabis community out here, is because my brand before did a lot of that, a lot of community give back.
Yeah.
As far as like, just in the Las Cruces community, in the cannabis community. And so, we just knew that community is such a huge thing here. Like, you have to give to the people. You have to win the hearts of the Las Cruces people because this is their place. This is their town. And so, even though we're out-of-staters and not from here, I think people just loved our good vibes, just the authenticity that we're not, and that we're for the culture. You know what I mean? We're not just, corporate cannabis, just trying to push, whatever BS onto the market. Like, I always source the flower myself that we stock, for my prior brand and for New Era now. Only things that I would smoke myself. I don't get low budget options, so we can make money off of people. We are all about quality. We are all about making sure that we respect the cannabis culture. And we're not here trying to, just make money off the backs of New Mexicans. We are here to provide jobs to New Mexicans, create events for New Mexicans, provide amazing products at, fair prices, not price gouging like a lot of these, some multi-state operators do. You know what I mean? It's just, that is not our mission at all. That's not my personal mission as a businesswoman at all, or as a cannabis advocate. And so I carry that mission with me everywhere I go. And so now that is the mission I push forward with New Era. And so we were really excited to, push that vision forward, do, such great things for the community, do great things for the animals of this community, the women of this community, just everybody. You know what I mean? We just want to give back and just show that we're not just a normal dispensary. You know what I mean? We're all about the health and wellness side too. And so that's one thing we like to tell people is we're not just a normal dispensary. We are also a wellness destination. And we offer a huge selection of, alternative wellness products, different types of plant medicine besides cannabis. We also offer hemp-derived products, CBD. We also offer kratom, which is a very natural pain reliever grown from plants, in Southeast Asia and, dried, ground into fine powder. And people are able to use these natural remedies for so many different ailments. And, we even carry the different legal mushrooms now. And so things like, lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, maca, all of the really great ones, good for gut and mind health, as well as, a big customer favorite, which is going to be the Amanita mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And those are like the Mario mushrooms, the red mushrooms with little white spots all over it. And so that's what Mario was taking, that got him feeling really good. And so, they're really good. They have, psychoactive benefits as well as just therapeutic benefits. And so, a holistic wellness destination.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for sharing that. I'm like, man, I don't have to ask any of the questions. It's like you memorized them. I'm like, okay, go right away. It's great.
I'm just I'm just so passionate about what I do. And so it just comes so easy for me to talk about it. I love to talk about it. I just enjoy learning more, getting to know other people in the industry too. And, just seeing that, that you're here doing this, fighting the good fight too. It's very admirable. It's very inspiring. And you're doing really great things with your podcast.
Thank you.
So I'm just really excited to be here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And I'm glad that you're here too, because, I'm learning so much about the company and what you bring to it. It's like, thank God, we get more people with experience and then the advocacy, because it's really important. I tell people this all the time. If you were in the cannabis industry, you secretly signed up to be an advocate. Or
Yes.
if you like it or not, you
Yes.
are an advocate, even as a user, because as someone who works in the industry, people look up to you, especially bud tenders. People look up
Yes.
to bud tenders like crazy.
Very
Like,
much.
they really hold them in, in high regards.
Yes.
So, you're,
They're counting on the bud tender to make an accurate and good recommendation for them.
Yeah.
To hear their needs and recommend based on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So, let's get on to New Era too. I want to talk a little bit more. What kind of products do you guys have right now? Speaking of, like, who do you
Yes.
carry?
And so right now at New Era, we're carrying a big variety of products. One of our main focuses though in our store is flower.
Mhm.
You can't have cannabis products without flower.
True.
Flower is king. Flower is the originating source of all of this.
Mhm.
And so our main focus is flower. I love to source from, really great producers that, have a lot of integrity and structure behind their grow style. People who have, I guess, just people who are very passionate about what they do.
Mhm.
They care about the grow style. They care about what's going into the plant.
Yeah.
And so some of the growers that we're carrying right now, Green Paradise, they are phenomenal. I would say top tier, one of my favorite producers for sure, and we've recently started carrying them. Another producer that we carry that's really great, Vana. I would say one of the top growers, in New Mexico. Their products are just so great, so consistent. Fields of Dreams, we carry flower from their grow. They're just such amazing, amazing business, family owned and operated, not like a franchise multi, are one location, family owned and operated. The owners are there 7 days a week running the place themselves. Like it's really, truly family run. And that's inspiring. And so we carry some flower from them. And another recent producer we just brought on who is really amazing. I got to give these people some love. They're called Dragoon's Lair.
Dragoon's Lair. Okay.
Yes.
I love that.
They are a local Las Cruces producer. They grow in living soil.
Okay.
All
Just
organic.
Yeah.
Beautiful nug structure, just frosty. The owners of that company, they're just so nice, just so passionate about what they do, and you can see it and you can tell in their product. And so I always love to show off their flower. Like, this is living soil. This is organic. This is true artisan grown cannabis. This is really, truly how it's done in nature. And so, love to talk about that. We carry a lot of different producers. Some of my favorites would be Headspace. They're really great guys. I love their products. I love their packaging. I love the consistency. Another recent product we just started carrying would be the live rosin from Rare Press Collective.
Okay.
And they are a small producer based out of Cloudcroft.
Okay.
And
cool.
so they are truly artisan.
Yeah.
They grow all one strain. And it is so good. The Tropicana Slurricane, their live rosin testing at 7.7% terpenes. I mean, so that is impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive.
And
yeah.
It's so light. I mean, it's just delicious. And so, just a lot of really great brands that we carry. I love to support, a lot of the local businesses. Thunderbird is somebody we carry. We carry Dom Pen. They're really nice at Dom Pen. And then we also carry, some of the multi-state operators too. Because are just looking for that too.
Yeah.
So, PAX, Lowell, Caviar, stuff like that. We also carry Hot Rods. And so we just like to have a little bit of variety, a little bit of everything. Some local, some, bigger brands, local brands, artisan brands. But we just try to make sure that everything we carry is.
Yeah.
That is the main focus. good
Yeah.
quality product in the pack. And you know what the consumer is getting from us is something that they will be happy with.
Yeah. And in New Mexico, we suffered for a long time from quality on the medical side for so long that now the quality, to be honest, a lot of people from other states have been telling me, I love your guys' quality. Your quality is amazing.
Yes.
And for us, a long time, we're like, this is shit. And, you know, this and that. When I was on the medical side and when we came to the rec side, I've noticed that the quality has
Increased
a
so
lot.
much.
Yes.
So much. And that's one thing I really loved about the New Mexico market too. Just because it's so new and up and coming, the bud is so fresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
fresh. You know, I love Colorado, never dogging on my home state, you know, but it is a drier climate there. And, you know, sometimes people have wait longer than they want to, you know, on hand. And so stuff gets dry. And, you know, I
Notice
really
that.
love how fresh a lot of the bud here in New Mexico is.
Yeah.
It's still retaining that, you know, that moisture, that terpene content. And so it's not just turning into dust when you break it up. It's actually, you know, got good structure. And so that's one thing I really notice and admire about the New Mexico market is definitely got it going on with the grows out here.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and a lot of us
Definitely.
learned a lot throughout the years too, and we had to learn how to grow in New Mexico, you know, and that's something that the guys from California learned very quickly. And I try to tell them that. I'm like, you're not going to grow like you grew in California. Like, oh, of course we will. We're going to do this and this and this. I'm like, you're already messing up. You got to do it backwards. You know,
Yes.
you don't have the humidity like that. And
Yes.
so then they mess up, and oh, I got all this mold, and I'm like, well, it's because you didn't
Too
think
humid.
about where you're at. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, you forgot where you were. Yeah, you're in the the Chihuahuan Desert, man,
Yes.
or a little up north.
Yes.
That climate up north, like in Albuquerque, kind of is resemblance of Colorado a little bit more. You know, I'd like to tell
Yes.
people when you reach San Antonio, New Mexico, it's like the landscape changes, and that's
Yeah.
when you start getting into the northern New Mexico landscape.
Yes, and I noticed, you know, a lot of reason I feel like maybe some producers may struggle or might not see as much, I guess, indoor flower in the beginning when it had first went rec. We were seeing a lot of greenhouse, a lot of light depth, and that was because it was so hard to get water rights.
Yeah,
And the city, you know, didn't want to let people use that much water.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that, you know, there's been a lot more indoor grows, and just, you know, just a lot more really, really premium quality bud available as time goes on. We're just seeing better and better quality. And so I feel like people are finally able to get through some of those obstacles that were holding these grows back, you know, making them have to grow in these difficult conditions, these unpredictable conditions. And so now that, you know, the industry is where it's at, you know, it's more stabilized. People can kind of know what to expect and are able to do their growth their ways now. And so I feel like you're going to see the products just continue to get better and better because that's
yeah.
what's going to count, you know, especially, you know, let's say if we kept the licenses open, that's what's really going to matter. You're going to have to produce quality. And so that is
Competition.
another risk of closing licenses is quality could potentially go down because, you know, people, you know, maybe won't have to as much. Whereas now it is all about quality,
Yes.
you know, presentation, quality, effect.
Yeah. And I think that the industry really needs to voice this too to our legislature because they're under the impression that we want this. And it's only the ones who are like really voicing the concern. It's only a small handful of people that really want the licenses closed. It's just they're loud because most of them that are honestly, and to be, you know, I'm not trying to insult anybody, the ones who are voicing this are actually the ones who are failing. You know, like, you know, they're just trying to stay above water. They're panicking. And so what's one way to get rid of the panic is to make you feel better if you close licenses. But that's not going to change anything. You know, people may still not go to you. You know, so that's what I keep trying to tell people, you know, be careful what you wish for because here in New Mexico, if we close licenses, I'll guarantee you they're not going to open up again for another 10 years. Washington hasn't opened theirs up in about 10 years either.
Wow.
So, yeah, and that's Washington. And so, you know, we would probably be around the same because even on our medical side, they did not want to open licenses. I even told them before we went legal, the licenses, before we go, you know, rec, they're like, why? I'm like, we don't have enough cannabis. Like, you know, we only have 35 producers in the state.
Yes.
You know, like, I'm like, that's ridiculous. You know, we're going to be catering to Texas. I don't think you guys realize that. And so once that realization came in, it was too late. And so then we were kind of trying to play catch up, but luckily we caught up, and things have gone well so far. But yeah, we just got to keep that licensing open because those micro licenses have been key here and they're game changing. We knew they were going to be, and that's going to be a national thing. You know,
Yes.
like I kind of feel micro will pop up all over the place. Kind of like how consumption lounges are starting to become more normalized in states that are legalized.
Yes.
You know, I feel like that will be more of a thing too. Is like, okay, we're gonna add the micro licenses because it gives the mom and pops a starting place, or even if you want to just stay there and just stay craft. You know,
Right.
like I'm just a craft guy. I grow 200 plants. You know,
Yes.
mature. You know, and then you know
And
they're
just have
all
the opportunity, like
yeah,
I would say, similar to like, um, like a bar.
yeah,
Give people, there's no limits on, how many bars there can be. It's just about getting the liquor license to do it.
hmm
And, if you open a bar and you make a fun environment and, you offer great service, people will come.
yeah,
And it's not like bars are not opening up near other bars because they're scared that that bar is gonna,
yeah,
take, people will go to multiple places.
yeah,
It's that same mentality with cannabis.
yeah,
Even with multiple locations, sometimes people want to go somewhere with this kind of vibe.
yeah,
Sometimes they want to go somewhere with this kind of vibe,
yeah,
or with this selection, or with this selection.
yeah.
And so I definitely get what you mean about giving that, keeping that open so people can keep that variety,
Yeah.
options for variety.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes people go out of business randomly. Like you know,
Yes.
maybe someone's parent dies, or God forbid, you know, their husband or wife dies, and they can't do this anymore. You know,
Right.
like that was a person helping them out, or whatever, or that was their drive. You know, that happens to people. You know, and they will suddenly shut down. And it could be a big corporation or
Yes.
big business, whatever. You know, it happens, and it has happened. So you know, we can't really bet on the people that are here now. At the end of the
Right.
day, it's going to be the people who want to be here, and we
Yes.
should allow those people to be here. You know, and not just force people to be here. You know, if you
Definitely.
don't want to be here, don't be here.
Definitely.
But we're not going to try to force anybody.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for this conversation. But before we move on to the next topic, or our last two topics for the day, where can people find you guys in town and online?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and we are located at 3850 Foothills Road, suite number 5. We're right next door to Indigo Yoga, Cholitos, and Caliche. So right in that general area. We do offer, free hookups for first-time customers. So we like to make sure we take care of everybody, make sure they get hooked up with something just for coming to visit us and check us out. And yeah, so we'd love to, serve you guys today. Come check us out.
Awesome. Yeah. Go check out New Era, guys. You know, great vibes over there. You know, y'all are doing it right. You know, you're operating in the right environment. You guys know what's up. You know,
Thank you.
you know the challenges ahead of you. You know,
Yes,
and you know,
definitely.
it takes time. You know, it's not overnight. Some people think you open the doors and all of a sudden there's 50 people wanting to buy
Yeah.
weed. It doesn't work like that,
No.
especially these days.
No,
You know,
no, yeah. There's
maybe the
so
first
many,
week of legalization, but not these days. You know,
yes,
yeah,
there's so many, dispensaries in town to choose from. And so that's why it is really important as a brand to set yourself apart.
yes,
You know what I mean? And that comes down to, like I said, good vibes, good energy, good product, a knowledgeable staff, a
yes,
welcoming environment. And that's pretty much it. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Quality medicine, and good people,
yeah.
good vibes.
Customer experience and customer service that goes a
Yes,
long way.
definitely.
So, but thank you so much again, and I look forward to continue this conversation to the
Yeah.
next topic because I'm sure you're gonna have a few things to say about it too. You
Sure.
know, I love everything you said so far, and you have really great takes on it because you know, some people look at the industry through emotions. You know, you have to look
Yes.
at it through a business, and you
Yes.
can't be emotional about it. You know, you have to
Definitely.
think about it in a different sense. So I'm
Yes.
glad that you bring that too. Some people are just so emotional about it. I'm like, you can't be that emotional with it.
Yes,
You know?
yes. I mean, business is business at the end of the
Yeah.
day. It's hard, it's cold, it can be cruel. But that's what we signed up for, Yes, we're doing something we love and something we're passionate about. But at the end of the day, it is a business just like anything else. It has to run a certain way, it has to make money,
Mhm.
and, it has to, make an impact. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It has to serve its purpose. It has so many roles to play. It's not just, pop up a store and sell cannabis.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to creating a successful business and creating a successful brand. And then not only just creating it, but to sustaining it from there.
Mhm.
I like to say business is more like gardening than architecture, right? It's
Mhm.
not a big, grandiose plan. It's more like continuous maintenance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I like to think of it like that.
That's a good way to
I
put it.
don't, and one thing that I feel like really works, for me business wise is not putting a whole lot of pressure. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Not, um, just overly pressuring, you know what I mean? Just kind of going with the flow, and things kind of happen naturally and organically. And so that method has really been working, you know what I mean? Not trying to force it, not trying to be something that we're not, but just really just try to be here, just as who we are, just cannabis advocates, for the people, just passionate about what we do.
Yeah, and we appreciate people like that because it brings something positive to New Mexico. So appreciate people like you and New Era being here. So welcome to the industry and everything. But yeah, let's move on to the next conversation. And I didn't want to update you guys on this so soon, but we're going to talk about Bright Green again. I think I talked about it just 2 weeks ago or something. So I got to update you guys because just recently, I think within the last day or 2 days, Bright Green, as you guys know from Grants, New Mexico, where Gino's from, they are.
It's close by.
Oh, it's close by. Sorry, it is close by. But anyway, in Grants, New Mexico, they are a federally approved cannabis grow facility. Of course, I talked to you guys how they applied for more Scheduled 1 and 2 drugs to grow and to manufacture, to sell globally into different things. So anyway, they were actually on the trade. They were on the market and everything, the NASDAQ, and they got taken off. I guess the NASDAQ decided that they didn't want them on there. Bright Green appealed, but they also lost the appeal. I think they have something else going on too after that. I have it on here. But that's unfortunate for, people that invested in that. But before that happened, I think they only came in April or something. I think shares started at $8.18. They went up to like $56.
Wow.
But then the last few months, it dropped down to like 15 cents.
Oh my.
So they had a big dip. And I think the reason.
That's awful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sorry. It sucks for anybody that invested in that.
Yes.
Yeah, I debated it. I was like, maybe
kind of like a rug pull, right?
Yeah, it was kind of almost like a rug. Yeah, almost like a crypto scam or something, right? I'm not saying it's a scam, but that's kind of like what happens.
How it feels.
So the reason why I want to mention this is because they're a big thing in New Mexico. They're one of the only federally owned and controlled things, like that in the nation, really. They're starting to set these up in other places, but I only know New Mexico as being one of the only ones right now that's approved. And they don't have, as my understanding right now, they don't have any plants in the ground right now. And I think that could be the reason why their stock plummeted, because people realize, like, I don't think these guys are growing at all.
There's nothing tangible here.
Yeah. I don't think this is what's going on here.
Right.
And, they have these like funding events and stuff like that. They partnered with people and they just secured a $2.5 million, I think it was a loan or something like that from somebody. So they have that money. I think it's going on. So I really don't know what's happening, but yeah, they got taken off the NASDAQ. NASDAQ said, no, we're not going to have you on.
So anyone who invested just lost their money.
Yeah. And they lost their money.
My goodness.
Yeah, they lost their money a long time ago too, on top of it. So
on top of it, they've already lost it all, but to make it worse, they lost whatever was left.
Off. Yeah, it's gone. And so the CEO, he did make a statement, and I'll read it to you guys. It's kind of an interesting statement. I want to, of course, read it verbatim and not, try to, read what he may have said.
Sure.
So here is from, his name is Groovy. He's an Indian guy. His last name is Singh. I don't know if I said that right or not. Yeah, his name is Groovy. So he's the CEO. He said, "We remain confident in our vision and strategy for the future of Bright Green, including the success of our EB5 capital raise program." That's the raising money thing I was talking about, and I've talked to you guys about it before. That's when they had the other countries and stuff they were talking to, and the other companies, and they invite people. They had a big old investor party, essentially.
Yeah.
The EB5 capital raising program has been faced with challenges with the U.S. government, immigration and border control complications, border control complications, and other government related delays and processing. So it sounds like they're dealing with the same issue we deal with the border checks here, and the border control is it's federally illegal, so you can't go through. With me, I kind of figured they would be an exception or have some kind of federal exemption because they're a federally approved and controlled entity that's allowed to do this. So I don't know if that has something to do with it or what's going on. It is an election year, so goofy shit happens.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's happening now. We're seeing it. It started earlier this year, and it's still going on, and so it's not going to stop, guys, until the election's over, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then in 2 more years, we have the governor elections, and then it starts all over again.
Oh, man.
That'll
be fun.
Yeah, and the fuckery starts all over again.
All over.
State by state at that point. So, and I'll continue on with this. Said Groovy Singh, officer company, we continue to focus on achieving licensing approval and our vision on enhancing national security interests by growing and producing Schedule 1 and 2 plant-based medicines. We are evaluating all options available to us, including strategic partnerships and acquisitions, as we continue to build our foundation and explore opportunities for sustainable financing and growth. So I don't know if this means that they've spent too much money on the facility or what's going on, but it looks like they're just looking for money, and it sounds almost a panic, but not a panic, a very calm panic. They're looking at other ways to go about this. So I have no clue what's going to happen in the future. It's very short lived for them. Unfortunately, they didn't even make it a year on the NASDAQ. So I have no clue what's going to happen in the future with that. Again, I'll keep you guys updated when I find out. I didn't plan on talking about Bright Green today, but this popped up in my feed, and I was kind of like, I need to bring it up.
Like, another one of those like examples, like you said, like put it, just investing a bunch of money and just thinking it's going to just work like that.
Exactly. It
doesn't work like that. You know?
Exactly. It doesn't. And I wanted to throw in there real quick, the guy who got the license initially, he was a car salesman. So, like it was someone who wasn't even cannabis related or anything. So that maybe that was the hang up or the reason. And maybe that's why they brought in the groovy guy, and he's trying to clean up a big old mess. Yes. So, have you heard about Bright Green or anything like that?
No, I'm actually not familiar with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, like I said, well, now you are, I guess.
Yeah, now I am.
Now you know, here,
that's
right here in
really
Mexico.
Interesting. I didn't know that. They were on the NASDAQ and now they're gone.
Yeah,
crazy.
Kicked right off. And I mean, that's, new stuff, but, I knew they're on the NASDAQ, but it wasn't like big news to me. I was like, what do you do? Yeah, you guys are federally approved, but I guess the NASDAQ didn't like that for whatever reason. I don't know if they're going to try to go through some appeal process or something like that. I think they already did. I don't know if there's another process of appealing it, but we'll see what happens. I just wanted to update everybody, on this right here, because this quote from the CEO actually came from their website. I copied and pasted straight from the website, and I got it from there. And the CEO does do updates every now and then. This one's better at doing updates than the other one was.
Right.
They just won't call me back because I keep trying to get a hold of them. Like I tag them all the time, and I'm not harassing them. I'm just like, hey, I want to talk to you guys and kind of figure out what's going on too. Because you're here in New Mexico, and we're New Mexicans, and we want to know what's going on. We want to know how this is going to benefit us as well. Like what are the real plans of this? Like I
keep us in the loop.
Yeah, exactly. Don't keep us in the dark like we've been for so long. We've already been through it a few times. We've been especially with the government. They like to keep us in the dark on certain things. They tested the nuke here, for God's sake.
Wow.
And that was kept out from that was kept from us for many years until it happened. Actually, windows and everything. My parents, my mom's from Alamogordo.
Right.
And so my grandpa, he lived there at the time, and he said when the blast happened, it broke windows in the city.
Oh my!
And that was over 100 miles away. And even down in El Paso, it broke windows. So it was it affected a lot of people, and I don't think people understand that the impact of that blast and everything, and the downwind issue and all that. So we have a lot of distrust in our government in the first place. So when something like this happens, we don't trust it. But if they would speak to us, just simple conversation, it might go a long way. And that's what I'm trying to do, just open that door and have them answer some questions that some of us have had.
Definitely.
Because what happened with the NASDAQ thing, what happened, maybe some New Mexicans had some money in that and maybe want some answers,
right?
Because you guys are operating here. So,
well, I hope you can get a hold of them, and get that conversation going, because, communication is key, and, New Mexicans do have the right to know that information. Yeah. And so, if they get that conversation going and just be transparent, I think that would, definitely make New Mexicans feel a lot better, for sure. So definitely keep that up, trying to get a hold of them and get that conversation going.
Yeah, I agree. I'll keep going. I'll keep pushing. I give them a call. I email them. I tag them in posts. So
just keep tagging them. I'll share your post.
Yeah. I'm not like saying fuck you or anything. I'm just trying to get a conversation.
Let's just talk.
Yeah. I just want to talk to you.
Definitely.
Yeah. So if anybody happens to see it, know somebody in Bright Green, tell them reach out to me. It'd be great to hear more about this. I'm sure a lot of New Mexicans have been curious. When I post this on Facebook, some people are either baffled that this is here in the first place because they don't know, or they're curious and want to know more, and we can't really find any information on it because they're so secretive.
Yes.
Because being able to grow Schedule 1 and 2 substances isn't a small thing. Being able to do that federally legal, they were talking about peyote, they were talking about psilocybin and psilocybin, and they're talking about ibogaine and all these other things, so I'm like, well, we want to know.
Hopefully they do that,
that's great, but we want to
would like to see that happen, that'd be an awesome step for New Mexico, to start getting into that psilocybin market. I don't know if you've heard, but in Denver, psilocybin has been decriminalized.
Yes.
And so they even are starting to open clinics now where you get the psilocybin, with your therapy. And so you go speak to a therapist, they prescribe you some psilocybin. And there's just been so many breakthroughs, in the studies and in the research lately that just show all of the amazing mental health benefits that, one can have from taking psilocybin or, some of the other psychedelics that are available too. And so, I'm really excited to also get into that market and really start pushing that forward too, because that really is a part of plant medicine as well.
I agree. And New Mexico is actually on that track. I'm working with a group called Soul Trip. We're working on getting psilocybin medically approved here in New Mexico.
Yes.
Of course, we're going to take a different route than the rest of the states are. Of course, we're going to do it the New Mexican way. But yeah, we're working on that already. Actually, this morning I was on a radio station, KTAL, and they were talking about the psilocybin thing. So I was on there, chatting about that because we had a Senate memorial passed in the legislature this past session, and it was a study bill for the DOH and UNM to get together to, do a study. The DOH today, or not the DOH, there was a committee hearing in Silver City where the DOH released a white paper, and I'm waiting for that white paper to come out so I could see what it is, and I think it's their findings of that memorial. So when we get that, we can kind of get more on a process. So hopefully next legislative session we can get a medical cannabis, a medical psilocybin. I'm so used to saying that. Medical psilocybin program approved in the state, and we can get going because I agree with you. We do need to explore that more, and that is the next venture for New Mexico. So we're working on it.
So are you guys pushing for decriminalization, or are you pushing more for medical use?
So the timeline that it works in New Mexico and that we've been told by the legislature and the legislators is that you do the study bill, then you do medical, and then in between that you decriminalize, and then of course legalize. It's going to pretty much take the same path as
step by
cannabis.
step.
Yeah, it's going to be a step-by-step thing. Cool. And to be honest, we do need to be a little more cautious with this one, and we do need more education with this. With cannabis, we kind of just said, have at it. Good luck. Figure it out. With psilocybin, I don't think we should do that.
No.
I have a friend who lives in Germany right now, and there's Germans in Alamo for a while too. So I have other German friends that live there, but one of my friends from Alamo lives in Germany, and they legalized cannabis. However, they're taking a different approach. They're kind of taking a slow approach to more of an educational approach first, and then they're going to kind of open the gates.
Oh, in Germany?
In Germany.
Recently?
Yeah, recently they legalized cannabis. Yeah, just
I had
just
no
this year.
idea. That is so amazing.
Yeah, it is.
What a huge step.
It is. Yeah, I mean, Germany, out of all places, it came out of nowhere. So theirs is like a private club kind of situation. Yeah, you have to be a member of it.
Like a coffee shop membership kind of thing.
Yeah, you
lounge.
have to come to a lounge like here, like where we're at right now at Monster House, and you would have to pay a membership and whatever. And I don't know how it's really going to work, but
that is so cool.
Yeah, they really implement the education. I was like, you know what? This is a chance for us to do it right and add more education to this whole process to everybody first, instead of, I don't know, figure it out, strange strand, I don't know, or that 500,000 milligram edible sounds good, we don't have to do that to people. Now we have more information, and we have the know and the means, and we've learned some things along the way with our medical cannabis stuff. Poor cannabis, it took all the brunt of all the stigma all these years, because it didn't really deserve it, because psilocybin, I've noticed, doesn't have the same stigma.
Yes.
And I don't know why.
It seems to be well received. There's not a whole lot of pushback and outcry you heard when cannabis was going legalized.
Yeah.
And so that's really interesting. I didn't really think about it like that, but I think maybe because it is coming out with the studies behind it.
Yes.
And I think because so many medical, corporation, scientists, science labs, research labs are, and therapy and counseling sessions are showing the benefits of psilocybin. There is some studies behind it and some true research. And so I feel like maybe that's why people are more receptive to psilocybin, because it's coming with, scientific backing, where cannabis was just kind of thrown in and, everybody just knew what to do and how it works. And now all the scientific backing is starting to come, later on down the line.
Yeah.
And
then, it was attacked so much with the reefer madness stuff and then the drug war, and, it's like psilocybin just kind of laid under the radar.
Being a Schedule 1, I guess it still is technically illegal to research, right?
Yeah, it is without like the DEA's approval.
Yes.
And that's what like Bright Green got was
Yes.
the DEA approval. So
Right.
that's the reason why they're able to.
And so that's why we have such a lack of, studies,
Yeah.
scientific evidence backing studies, with cannabis. It's just because they don't allow it.
Yeah, in our state, luckily, we got with Department of UNM and Department of Health here in New
Yes.
Mexico, and they decided we're just gonna do this study on it, blah blah blah, this and that. And so I'm really glad. I'm really looking forward to that white paper. Once I get to check out that white paper, if you guys don't know what that is, it's like a study, release kind of. It's just pretty much a paper with a study on it,
Right.
and a bunch of explanations and stuff.
Cool.
For the most part. Now, I'm really excited to see what the findings are of that, and that's really going to help us drive the bill when it goes to the legislature this year. So
Yes.
I'm going to be fighting for a few things this year, I guess. We're going to be fighting for the cannabis industry, a new psilocybin medical industry here in New Mexico, and of course, all the things that go within the cannabis stuff, the drive-thrus. That's not going to go away, guys. Don't think because we saved them this past year that they're not going to try to attack it again. They are, and that's something we're going to have to be prepared for again. I was blindsided by that. When
Yes.
that happened, I was totally blindsided. I was actually in that committee when they introduced that amendment, and I was just dumbfounded. I was
Yes.
like, you've got shitting me.
After telling everybody that they had to do the drive-throughs, 25 feet, and people had already done all this construction and
Yeah.
building and pulling permits and codes to build their drive-through up to codes.
Yeah.
And then for them to try and take the drive-throughs away after that, I thought that was, super unfair. And
Yeah.
so I'm just glad that didn't go through.
Yeah, and it seems to have alcohol drive-through, and we got rid of it, and it took us 10 years, and Albertsons was even here, and all these people, and blah,
Yes.
blah, blah. But one thing that I made a point while I was in that committee, and they still passed it, but, it wasn't until the Senate floor we got it removed, is we don't have a medical alcohol program. We have a medical cannabis program.
Yes.
So it's something different. I was like, you have Albertsons slinging fentanyl out of a window. I was like, why can't
Yes.
the mom with some kids get her medical cannabis or what she deems as her medicine, because she's free to do that in the
Yes.
state, do that herself? Why can't the guy in the wheelchair stay in his vehicle instead of having to get out and be a burden on him? He gets to stay in the vehicle and go home and then be burdened once he gets home versus being burdened the whole time. I know people that are in wheelchairs, and it's not that accessible. Just because it is up to the standard doesn't mean that it works. Some of those ramps are pretty steep.
Yes.
And if you're not that strong, you're not going to get up. And some people, you can be as strong as you want and you may not get up,
Yes.
because of how steep it is. And some of them just, to me, aren't that friendly. And that was some of their arguments. It was like, well, they have ADA, this and that, they have wheelchair accessible. I'm like, you guys aren't really thinking of this as a patient, So I'm glad that it passed, but they're going to attack it again, guys, and we're going to have other
Yes.
attacks. So be ready for something random. I have a feeling something random will pop up. Maybe like this last time, they also tried to add an amendment to make us again sign up for like a license to grow. Pay a fee to grow at home, and we had that already when it was medical.
Wow.
Terrible
Awful.
idea. It was you can't enforce it. It was just enforced by hope. And the CCD did have enough brains to say, we cannot enforce that. That is impossible for us to enforce. That is
Yes.
crazy for us to enforce too.
Because how
Like,
will they know? And just it's just
they'd have to have a
Yeah.
whole department dedicated to home grows.
Yeah.
Like that's ridiculous. Like
Yes.
I better be able to sell to the dispensaries if they're doing that.
Exactly.
Like if you're going to make me go through that process, I better be able to make some money back because I'm putting
Yes.
some money up,
exactly.
Like I'm already putting money up to grow cannabis. Now you're making me pay even more. And I'm
Yes.
just growing it for myself. You guys are
Right.
crazy. Yeah. So something like that popped up. It didn't pass, of course,
That's good.
not everything does, but we're going to see more random things like that pop up that's going to attack the industry. That's why we need as many of us in Santa Fe as possible when these things happen. I'm talking about it more and more because we're getting closer and closer to that time. A lot of the legislators, they're doing committees and stuff, like in Silver City, they had one today, and they're kind of getting an idea for the bills as they go on. And we're just in September. The legislature will start, and the session will start in January. It'll be a 60-day session, so I believe it ends in March. I'm usually up there on my birthday because it's in February, so I'm probably going to be up there again. No big deal, but I'm used to it. But it's one of those things that you have to do as an advocate.
Yes.
Even if it's your birthday, you may spend it at a legislature in the roundhouse, whatever. You're doing it for a bigger
No
cause.
days off.
Yeah, no days off. There's no days off on this. I see some people going on vacation. I took my first vacation in 12 years. When I went to Hawaii, and I felt bad. Yeah, and I felt bad. And I see people going to freaking like France and like Greece and stuff. I'm like, dude, aren't you like just starting a business?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, like we
definitely.
need you here. You know, it takes sacrifice, is what I'm
Yes.
trying to say. A lot of sacrifice.
Very much
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Just
And
continuous sacrifice
yeah.
in the beginning, and honestly in the middle and all the way through to the end.
Yes.
It's continuous sacrifice is how you make a business work.
100%. And, you know, especially in this industry. So I won't kick the dead horse on that. I just really wanted to stress how important it is for you guys to show up as the industry.
Yes.
And the legislators were asking
Be present, do your best, you know, every day.
Yeah, 100%. The legislators were asking for us, so let's show up. I mean, they want to hear from us. You know, they're hungry to hear from what we have to say, and maybe we won't get as many dumb changes if that happens.
Yes.
You know, maybe we'll get what we want.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know, consumption at events and sales at events.
Yes.
I mean, normalization along with legalization is what needs to happen.
Yes.
So anyway, that's all I have for that topic. And, you know, I guess a little mini topics that went along with it. We're going to move on, and we're going to talk something that's a little similar. We're going to talk about the lack of enforcement here in New Mexico, which has kind of caused issues beyond the boogeyman of, you know, saturation. Like I said before, there's more issues within our industry than just a saturation problem. And to be honest, that's not really a problem. It's just a natural thing that happens when you do business and stuff like this. I mean, like we said, no one's saying no to, you know, pizza places, you know, like, you know, we're allowing it to thrive. You know, no one says we need to save the restaurants, so we're not going to allow any more restaurants, you know, like they come and go, you know, and it is what it is. And business is business. And some have been around for 20, 30 years and some a year, you know, a few months, and it happens, you know, if you make it, you make it. But Larry Barker, he's a renowned, a journalist here in New Mexico. He does investigative journalism here in New Mexico, and he's been doing it for years. I guess he spent a whole year on this current investigation that he just released, I think either this morning, last night, or yesterday. And he investigated what's going on in New Mexico. And most of us already know all of this is going on. And what it is and what I'm talking about, some of you probably already know. The illegal events that have been going on in New Mexico is one of the things that he brought up. And I guess in Albuquerque, there's a place where they have just illegal events every week, you know, and just they're selling cannabis. There's no licensing. There's no testing going on. I have my own opinion about the testing thing. We'll get to that because New Mexico, we're really young when it comes to testing, and some of the people mad. I'm like, that's funny. So they are making, I want to say, a fuss, but they're trying to bring light to the issue of these illegal events because they've been going on for a while. Even before legalization, there was underground events that would happen in the state. And to be honest, that was going on. It's going on nationally. We're not the only place. You know, this isn't the only place. Even in Texas, it's going on, and it's super illegal there. But they have events all the time over there, and it's kind of crazy when you look at them. They had pictures of, you know, the events. They blurred people's faces, but they had pictures of the weed, the illegal weed, and all that. And so it does raise alarms because that is alarming. This report also talks about the illegal dispensaries that are in the state too, because there are some. There's not a lot.
Not too many, but there were some just opening up a store without a license. Thinking that they get away with it. Oh yeah, we're in BioTrack. You try to look for them in BioTrack. I'm like, you're not in BioTrack, bro. I can't do business with you. What the hell? You know, like I can't do that. Or you got those guys, I hear about them all the time. They'll walk into shops and they'll try to sell people out of state weed and shit like that. And, you know, and it's alarming. You know, that means an issue. And the lack of enforcement, like you said, you know, there is so many new businesses opening up, you know, every day, closing down every day. And there is a limited staff on the CCD. You know what I mean? There's only so much, you know, 1 or 2 investigators can do per day. And, you know, when we're speaking about the whole state of New Mexico, I mean, that is so broad, you know, it's
the 5th largest state.
Yes, 5th largest state. So many locations, a limited amount of CCD staff. And so that's why you see, you know, a big lack of enforcement, a big lack of regulation. Another thing is there's not like a lot of, I guess, training for new owners, right? They just give them the license and, you know, just expect them to take it upon themselves to learn the compliance laws and to learn the CCD regulations. But not everybody does that. Not everybody's familiar with that. A lot of people, it's their first time in this industry or their first time owning a business in general. And so there's so many things you have to learn along the way. And so I feel like it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. It gives people the chance to learn, for New Mexico to catch up, for businesses to, you know, learn how to operate without having such, I guess, you know, in Colorado, it was like, you know, the marijuana enforcement division was run by police officers and SWAT team members. And so when you would get, whenever you'd have an inspection or when you'd go to renew your licenses and stuff like that, they're wearing bulletproof vests, they have shields, they have guns.
What the hell?
And so that's kind of like how it was there. And so that's why it's like so strict, so like tightly regulated from the beginning in Colorado, from day one.
Yeah.
And then when I came here, I saw so opposite, you know what I mean? And it seems like nobody really knows what's going on, and compliance wasn't really a word.
Mañana. Yeah.
You know, and so, land of mañana. And so, you know, it's just been interesting to see for sure. It's so different than, you know, what I've seen before. But it's just really interesting to see it. And, you know, I know that this, you know, they have been increasing the enforcement. I noticed that, you know, a lot more places are getting inspections now. But a really awesome thing that the CCD does that I really appreciate is that they list the CCD checklist of what they're looking for when they go into your dispensary.
It's on my Instagram too.
You know, I really recommend for all dispensaries to have this checklist printed out and do mock inspections at your dispensary. You know what I mean? Just do a test run. Make sure you can check everything off that list comfortably and confidently, and that everybody on your staff can also as well, and they know how to answer these questions. And you know what I mean? It's just they really lay it out for you. And so you know, and you're going to see it get stricter and stricter. You know what I mean? As the market continues to go, the regulations are going to become more. Yeah. And so it's just, you know, all about just trying to be ahead of the game, just trying to be a good operator, trying to do things the right way, you know, and you'll be good. Yeah. You know what I mean? You'll be set. That's it.
And that's one thing I've been trying to push for too, is, you know, not over-regulation. We're already over-regulated as is.
Yes.
And that's one thing I try to get the state to understand is, you know, we can't over-regulate it because then it becomes an issue. There has to be a little happy medium. Yes. You know, but right now the CCD is underfunded. They can't do anything to these illegal entities. They can't shut them down. You know, they don't have any authority. And I'm not sure what's going on with the authorities, the police and the federal government. They don't seem to be doing anything either. They're stagnant on this. I don't know if it's because a lot of the sheriffs in the state, not all of them, but a lot of sheriffs don't like the governor. So maybe this is going on in their AO and they just don't give a shit. You know, they're just like, I'm not going to do anything because I don't care about the cannabis industry. I let it burn. Right. And that's some of the mentality of people, you know, in enforcement, in the state enforcement.
And there's just like a big, you know, I guess like I would say like lack of consequence too. Yeah. A lot of slaps on the wrist. Yeah. Which, you know, in Colorado, like you don't see that kind of thing. Like it's like you violate, you know, you're getting shut down pretty much right away. There's not a whole bunch of chances, or it's not like you pay a fine and, you know, you close for a week and then you're good to go. Yeah. You know, like I said, you know, coming from Colorado where compliance is, you know, huge, you have some violations or multiple violations, you know, they're shutting you down. There's criminal penalties, you know, tax penalties, all sorts of things that come along with it. Where, you know, I've seen some of the big, you know, violations that have shown up on the CCD, you know, a website, you know, lately. And I'm just like, you know, a lot of these businesses that violate in very big ways, in ways that are, you know, endangering public safety and public health, you know, just putting whatever into the hands of consumers, not thinking about, you know, how that could affect the person's health, but only thinking about lining their own pockets, you know, and then you see them, you know, get in trouble, but just slaps on the wrist, you know, and they're allowed to keep operating. Yeah. And so that's kind of like the only thing that I'm like, you know, if people's products that are just so filthily contaminated with pesticides and they sold it without COAs, you know, people that do things of that nature, I feel like shouldn't get slaps on the wrist. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe a mislabeled, like you mispackaged something, label error. Yeah. Yes, those are human mistakes, human error. We're not robots, we're human beings. You know what I mean? And so general mistakes are going to be common and expected, you know, but true malicious intent for, you know, one's gain, personal gain. I mean, I'm just so anti that, you know, and you just see that happening, you know, quite a bit with some of these cannabis businesses. And so, you know, it's just why we got to keep fighting the good fight. You know what I mean? Exactly. To just try to push the good cause and just doing things the right way and just kind of just setting that example of like what it is to be a good operator in this industry and to actually care about the patient, the product, the consumer, just all of that, and not just care about, the money.
Yeah, and that's where, all this stems from,
Because when you care about all of those other things, the money comes, you know what I
Yes.
mean? It just happens because it's just genuine and authentic, but when you try to force it and try to just do, like less, no integrity type of things to get ahead, it just shows, and so I just wish, those type of operators would just not.
Yeah, and if there was better enforcement on, let's be honest, on pretty much all sides, we wouldn't run into that as much. There'd be more integrity. There'd be less of these illegal operators, illegal stuff going on. And I go into shops sometimes and I'm like, whoa, okay, we're not doing anything legal today, huh? And so, and it's not just like, they have the NM on the THC thing, like,
Yes.
that I
Which
know is
that's a
confusing.
thing.
They're back and forth on that. I get it.
Yeah. One
but-
that I run into on a regular basis is QR codes.
Yeah.
And whether they're required or not. And a lot of people still believe that they're not required and that it's like an and or an or thing. A lot of people think, hey, if I have, the test results, the testing lab, all the information, I don't have to have the QR code. But the CCD, they have the checklist and it says you have to have all of it. You have to have the label with the information and then a QR code that also goes to a label with the information as well.
Yeah.
And so that's, a conversation that I've, had a lot of times. And, it just goes to show that like the industry is ever changing. The rules are always changing and they're not notifying owners and operators of these changes. They're not giving us updates when these things go into effect. They just, or they'll be very vague or, not really making sure everybody is so knowledgeable and comfortable that they know what's going on. And so, it just goes to show like that, they're just, the CCD could be a little bit more clear. And, that not everybody is on the same page when it comes to compliance and the regulations.
And I think something that would curb, one of those issues is at least the CCD by law being required to let operators know within a certain amount of time when they change something. If you change this, you have 48 hours to let all the, cannabis industry people know. You have their contact information. I'm sure it's on a big list.
Yes.
You can let them know fairly easy these days. Let them know within a reasonable amount of time, 48 hours, whatever, that this change has happened.
Right.
So that way they can now become compliant. So that's one thing that I think needs to change to kind of keep CCD honest, because, they're on our ass and we need to be on their ass too. It's like, well, if you're on our ass about this, we need to be on yours about this compliance stuff, because it's not fair that I'm doing it right, but I'm getting the blame for certain things because of what others have done and because of lack of, regulation. And I get it. There's certain laws and they're stopped. They're not officers. I don't know if in Colorado if they have like, police, kind of authority or not, the regulators, but that's something they're kind of pushing for here. And to be honest, I'm not really a fan of that in New Mexico because that can go another route. And I'm not really, again, my New Mexican comes in and I don't trust the government. And that's where I'm like, I don't trust the CCD, and it's nothing to do with them. It's just the government thing. Being a police entity, like we have a police entity, they just need to do their job.
Right.
And start enforcing these laws, because they can go and shut down these illegal dispensaries. They can go and raid them. The DEA can go raid them, but they're not.
They don't.
They're just seizing our cannabis at the border instead. Not the DEA, but this is what's happening. That
at the checkpoint, seizing legal products. While letting illegal operators fly.
Exactly. You have these illegal grows that are going on too. There's a couple in the state. They've been shut down and everything, but then they reopen somewhere else and they can't do anything because they're not licensed.
Yes.
And even then, the CCD doesn't have much power to even force people to pay them for those fees, come to find out. And the CCD is very honest, with the information I've found about what the issues are. And they even say like, we only have certain many people. We only have this much of funding. So they do need more funding. They do need a little more authority, but I don't think they need to be police officers,
Yes,
that's
definitely
too much.
not. Definitely not. And that's how it started in Colorado.
Yeah.
Like I said, full body armor, vest, shield. But Colorado moved away from that. You know, they don't have that anymore. Now, when you go to the marijuana enforcement division, it's going to be people dressed, in plain clothes, business, professionals. And
talk to you like a person.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, But I think they just did it like that in the beginning just because it was like the criminal element, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of maybe the people that are going into the industry, could have that criminal element background. And
Yeah.
so, and it was just such an unknown. And that's because it was just so early in Colorado when they did it. Now that we are, so many years, over a decade into recreational sales across the nation, that's just not necessary anymore. It
Yeah.
should just be regulated like a normal business.
Mhm.
And that's kind of something I wanted to ask your opinion on, like with the whole rescheduling thing coming. I feel like it should honestly just be descheduled because then, rescheduled, we still don't know what that means. Is that going to put it into, we have to go to a pharmacy to get it? Is
Yeah.
that going to mean we're going to have to go through, a nurse, a licensed registered nurse, or a therapy or counseling service to get a prescription? Why don't we treat it like alcohol or like, tobacco or like a restaurant or a bar? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just leave it as a business that any entrepreneur can take on and try to make it work.
Yeah.
And so, what do you feel about rescheduling or descheduling? Like,
I'm a fan of descheduling. I'm also
Descheduling,
yeah.
right?
I'm also a realist when it comes to certain things. I understand what we're most likely going to get at
is
the moment
rescheduling.
is rescheduling, but descheduling is really what we want because we're just causing more confusion.
Yes.
The hemp being added in the farm bill caused confusion as is. That split the industry into two different industries. You have the
Yes.
280E, then you have this one. And even with 280E rescheduling to Schedule 3, the IRS already said that you're already still going to be paying 280E. That's not going to go
Yes.
away. And I think that's bullshit.
Right.
So
Right.
we're still going to be on 280E. So it doesn't really fix much. I'm like, okay, well, if we're still paying 280E, can we even get bank accounts then? Like we're being told,
Yes.
we're being fed these false, promises. And I knew
Exactly.
it wasn't going to be that great. I said, we might this and this, and it might change. And it looks like it is changing because I knew the government had no clue how to go about this. And they have no clue still now how to go about this. They're still figuring it out. So if we deschedule it, that will not create another freaking industry that we have to regulate. And it's regulated by another government entity.
Yes.
And so it stops the confusion because right now we have this confusion of Delta 8, Delta O,
9,
THCA,
yes.
the hemp stuff. Is this
Yes.
legal hemp? Is it legal weed?
The
I can't
dispensaries
tell.
in Texas.
Oh yeah,
Dispensaries.
yeah, dispensaries in Texas. Yeah.
THCA flower and concentrates.
Yeah, and a lot of those products are testing hot anyway, so they're not being honest about the product. So it's just a ploy to get where we are now, and it just caused confusion. If we just reschedule, we're going to end up with the 280E industry. We're going to end up with the Schedule 3 industry, and then we're going to have the hemp industry. That's 3 different industries.
Yes.
And we're going to have to deal with all of those. If you want to do hemp and cannabis, you're going to have to run around with so many freaking hoops. And if you even want to get into medical, oh God, don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a fan of descheduling.
Descheduling,
It just
for
makes
sure.
it easier. It makes more sense. The only thing about that is, of course, it comes with the negative. We're most likely going to be a part of the ATF. Alcohol,
Yes.
tobacco, and firearms,
Yes.
because what 2 names are in that name? Alcohol, and tobacco. And if they're
firearms.
going to treat us like alcohol and tobacco, they're probably going to throw us in the ATF. They'll
Yes.
become the ATCF or ACTF, whatever.
Do you think they would be easier to deal with than CCD or more difficult?
I kind of feel, depending on how the government sets it up, if they allow the states to create their own thing with minimal federal oversight, then I see it kind of being how it is now.
Yes.
With a little bit of federal intervention here and there, especially with testing. I think testing is going to be something that needs to be federally standardized. This whole 20% variation, 15% variation thing is crazy to start out with. But now you have Colorado and California who are cracking down on the testing. We're finding out that it was bullshit to start out with, that the numbers are becoming more accurate when they crack down. So we just need a federal standardization on that. That I am a fan of.
Yes.
Because testing is important. We want to make sure that these products that are getting out are tested and safe for people to use.
Yes.
There's a lot of mold on the market. There's a lot of PM on the market.
Yes.
There's a lot of, BS weed on the market that shouldn't be there. Pesticides used that shouldn't ever touch a plant that's being consumed by humans.
Yes.
There's stuff like that going on that shouldn't be. Those are the kind of things I'm kind of talking about, but it should still be regulated by the states. When it comes to testing, though, unfortunately, something like that needs to be standardized will probably have to go to the feds. What is your kind of stance on it?
I agree. I know that there's just, there can be a lot of questions when it comes to the validity of some of the test results. There's, so many different methods that, people can use, from the grow, from just picking, a top nug,
Yeah.
nurturing it through the cure process, and then the rest of it just goes through a machine trim,
Yeah.
and then there's people, they can even keef their flower,
Mm-hmm.
just doing like little things to try to get ahead,
Yeah.
and if you get to pick the sample that you're sending to get tested, it's just, it is, I don't know if that's always such an accurate representation of the whole,
Yeah.
and so, that testing should be a little bit more regulated, a little bit more oversaw, just to make sure that people are getting the truth and not just test results are being paid off, or people are, fluffing up the bud to make it better, but maybe like a random test where, they come and grab a couple nugs from the batch just to make sure it's good.
What's crazy in New Mexico, Department of Ag comes and takes the sample for your hemp. Like
for hemp, but not for cannabis.
Not for cannabis. I'm like,
and they won't certify your scales either.
Yeah. Blows my mind. And that's something I think needs to change because, the Department of Ag is down here in Las Cruces, if you guys didn't know that. But, it's a state thing. So like, why can't we work together? And to be honest, I kind of feel Department of Ag should have been in charge of the growing stuff to start out with anyway. When it comes to grow facilities, not the CCD. I feel the Department of Ag suited for that, because they already inspect many grows, not just cannabis and hemp, tomatoes, green chile, all the stuff that's grown in the state. They even test their soil. They test grass. I had a really good relationship with Department of Ag. I still do. Back when we were medical, because they're here in town, and we worked on some stuff together. And one of them told me, he's like, I got to go test some grass. No, some real grass. It was probably like an intimacy football film or something.
Funny, right.
So they're just more suited for that,
yes.
And we need to look at those kind of things. Like, all right, who's more suited for this? Should we just throw it all in the CCD and have them figure it out? Or go to an entity who's been already doing this for so many years and already have a process that's safer and better for everybody. They come,
right.
They take your sample, they put it in an evidence seal bag, and then it goes off. They give it to the farmer, and then he takes it to the testing facility and pays for it. He can't touch it. He can't cherry pick the sample because we all know that happens. Like you said, they got the one little pretty one that looks good and everything else is crap. The numbers look great on that. That also keeps people honest.
Yes,
And
keeping people honest.
Yes.
Having that integrity behind product, because it is a public safety and health concern at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're inhaling this product into our lungs, consuming it in edible form,
rubbing it on your skin,
dabbing it, vaporizing it, which immediately to the bloodstream when you vaporize. And so it's like, you want to make sure you're putting only quality ingredients into your body. You don't want to be smoking a pesticide that, converts into cyanide when it's lit on fire.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to be smoking mold and getting spores, into your lungs.
And I'm highly allergic to a lot of the mold that plagues plants.
Yes.
So when a plant is infected with the mold, I know because I get a reaction. And some people try to BS me sometimes. Like, oh yeah, it's clean. I'm like, why did I have an allergic reaction?
And it's, fruits in the grocery store produce, they're allowed to test at much higher percentages of mold, because when you eat it, it's different than when you burn it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so the parts per million, is like much, much higher on produce, than cannabis. And that's important because...
And you can wash it.
Yes. For produce, you can wash it, you can clean it. But cannabis, you don't. You break it up and you smoke it. And then when you burn those spores, like it's just no good,
And I just thought of this. Let me ask you this. Do you ever wash your hands before you break bud up?
I use a grinder.
I do too. Okay. Yeah. But like whenever I see people use their hands, I'm like, I just thought of this. I'm like, what if people wash their hands, because you're introducing more contaminants into that from whatever you touch.
Right.
I never thought of it. Yeah. I use a grinder too. And my preferred way.
Yes.
But some people, I still situations I have to too, but I was thinking, I'm like, people wash their hands when they do that, because
I guess just burn away, right?
Yeah. Everything's getting killed anyway at the fire, right?
Right. Exactly.
Guys, there's snails that live under the ocean near volcanic, and they have metal on their shell because they live by the heat. So just keep that in mind. Heat isn't the killer of everything.
It's not.
So
you only do so much.
Yeah, exactly. Only does so much, only kills so much. That's why, hand sanitizer is 99.9%. There's that 0.1%,
Exactly.
gets by still. So
And that's why it's important, especially in the industry, to
yes,
wear gloves.
yes,
Everybody in the
respirators if you're rolling
industry,
joints.
please wear gloves,
Yes.
when handling product. Um, I'm not, there's just been times where I've seen people not using gloves and even, posting things to like social media or, things of that nature. And I'm like,
I see them put it in their mouth, and I'm like,
yeah. And I'm like,
brother,
that's going to the customer. Like, don't
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah, I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah,
why?
yeah.
You gotta
And
buy
so,
that now.
you got to be mindful that, if it's your own personal stash, you're rolling a joint at home, probably okay if you get, some of your own cooties on there. But when you're serving this to somebody else, try to keep cooties off of it. You know what I mean? Gloves, proper sanitation, hand washing, hand sanitizer. Like Chad said, try to wear a mask if you're doing joints. Just not to even breathe in all those particles, but also not to breathe onto the product as well.
Yes.
And so, just these little quality assurances and quality checks will make a huge difference. And it just shows the integrity of a brand. And that really matters for most consumers at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. And, like you mentioned, contaminants through the air and everything. We have, in New Mexico is something unique. You can do packaging or you can do deli style. When you open the jar, you're introducing contaminants. If you breathe in the jar, you're introducing contaminants. So my advice to you guys, if you do deli style, don't let the customers put their nose or their face in the plant. I know they get upset that, they can't smell it. Get a fan. Buy a little cheap fan, turn it on, and then it'll go right in their face. I've seen this a few times in a few places. It's better than getting contaminants. You got molecules flying in there. I don't want to smoke that weed.
Right.
I've seen it. People just stick their face in the jar. I'm like, oh. Like I don't know where they've been. You're introducing contaminants, and some people have immune issues.
Yes.
So it's
immunocompromised folks for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I get it. You folks out there that want to see the weed before you buy it, I get it. But it comes with the risk, and the risk is introducing those contaminants, be it smelling, whatever. So operators, you're going to have to come up with clever ways to get around that. It's not up to me. It's up to you. You guys are the ones that decided to do deli style. You have the choice of packaging. So,
which we do. We do deli style at New Era.
Yeah.
And, I feel like it just really gives such a positive experience for the customer to be able to smell the strains, see kind of a big picture of how it looks more in a bulk form versus just seeing a tiny nug in those little jars with the little, magnifying glass, and it's just one bud in there. And it's like, you can't really get the full picture of the bud like that, and so, deli style, it's just such an enjoyable experience, I feel, for customers, and just being able to see your product weighed out in front of you, just knowing it was weighed right then and there. Because, with pre-packs, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's dry as dust. It was pre-packed like a month ago. It's been sitting there waiting to be sold for a long time. And so, I've always kind of like really been against pre-pack. I've always been like so deli style. Better experience, fresher to keep the bud in glass, better, bag appeal just to kind of see the whole picture. And yeah, I don't know, there is, the risk, I guess, of, people breathing on it and stuff like that. But, like we said, like it does burn away too. And so it's like, how risky is it? I feel
there's no studies on it. That's my thing. Until it's studied, we really don't know. And my thing about it is it dries out the cannabis really quickly, and the terpenes dissipate very quickly. Those are the downsides. Everything comes with the downside. But I have seen some growers mitigate that by giving the dispensaries cannabis that's still curing. It's like, this is still curing. It's good to smoke, but it's still curing. And I'm giving it to you like this. So that way, when you open it, it's not going to dry out. You're not going to miss out on the terpenes. And so that's something clever that I've noticed people do. So that's what I'm saying is like, you're going to have to find a way around these things because the study's going to come. Who knows? Larry Barker might be working on that right now because he was working on this secretive story for over a year.
Yes.
And I feel that's something that would need to be studied to tell. But anytime you open in something that's sanitary to any environment that's not sanitary, you're introducing contaminants into it. So just keep that in mind. if in the future that comes, you know, if that's the case, figure it out, you know. Just don't think that's always going to be the case, and it will be all right. And, you know, and yeah, you know, I agree. You know, the experience from what I've told, you know, from people is I love, you know, deli style this, and I'm like, that's great. But, you know, there's upsides and downsides to everything. And, you know, I thought it was very clever the way that the growers figured out how to get around that, you know, instead of just throwing a bunch of bodegas. Yeah, exactly. The fan, great idea. I love that. You know, everyone's happy. You know, but, you know, giving them the jar when it's still curing a little bit to kind of mitigate some of the other issues. I'm like, that's genius. That's simple. It works. And it's great. I like that, you know, and I do appreciate that. You know, that makes me more confident in deli style now that I know my cannabis is going to have, you know, the terpenes and the smell and the flavor, because that's what I'm about. You know, I like that. And if it loses that, it sucks, you know, because sometimes, like, I'm sure it was a good smell and taste at one point, but it dissipated now. So that's something that I'm telling you guys. So hopefully you guys do that too, because I do see deli style a lot, but you know, comes with the downside. And now there's a little fix that someone figured out. You know, that's cool that, you know, legalization, you know, brings along all these little inventions, little tweaks and stuff. So yeah, you know, and you know, the little fan, stuff like that too, you know. And I saw a jar yesterday where they had a little thing on the side. You squeeze a little puffer. Yeah, a little puffer. I was like, oh, that's cool. Was it yours guys? Was it your guys?
No,
I don't know. I've been in so many
seen-
shops lately.
Yeah, I've seen those though. They're pretty cool.
I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like pressing it. I was like, this is smart. I was like, that's a good way.
The smell out.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. You know, when you put the samples in there, you know, they go to crap so quickly. You kind of have to change them every day, and it's a waste. So, but I thought that was clever. You know, no one's opening it, it's shooting the air out in your nose. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that. You know, another little thing you guys can look for. It's on the market somewhere. Someone invented it. So, but yeah, that's all I have for, you know, this week and everything. Thank you so much for joining me again. It has been a great conversation. I'm sure this is another long one. Gino's probably over there like, I got a lot of editing. But you know, we had some great conversations. You know, I really appreciate you guys being here and bringing what you bring to the table. You know, I think the experiences that you know, really show when you come into New Mexico and what you learn. You know, like some people do go through that and they don't learn anything. So you learned all kinds of great things, and I can't wait to see what you can bring to New Mexico. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me on today. You know, we're just so happy to be a part to be on the Grassy Logic show, and you know, I'm looking forward to see all the great things that you have in store as well for the Grassy Logic Expo and your advocacy movements.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just in case you guys didn't know, I'm doing a cannabis expo here in Las Cruces at the Las Cruces Convention Center, November 12th and 13th. We're waiting on the convention center to get us links for the tickets. I know I've been telling you guys, but we're waiting on them. So as soon as I get the link for it, you guys will get the link for it. You can start buying your tickets. We're getting vendors and everything, and hopefully we see New Era there as a vendor as well.
Yes, we will be there for sure. Definitely.
So before we go today, is there anything you want to leave the guests with? You know, something little witty or whatever?
No, I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Really appreciate, you know, the chance to kind of share my story, what brought me to New Mexico and kind of what I'm doing today. You know, we really want to give back to the community. We really want to do some great things with New Era. And so we're just really looking forward to just being a part of this vibrant community, and just, you know, continuing to do what we love, which is cannabis.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And before we go, I got to thank my sponsor, Monster House. That's where we're sitting right now.
Thank you, Monster House.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you for your contributions to the show. It keeps it going. And I will see you guys next week with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, whatever you got to do to stay in the know. All right. Shoots.
Hi.
See ya.